Is it possible that the seemingly harmless cartoons your child watches every day are quietly reshaping their ability to focus, to feel calm, and to connect with the real world? Have you ever noticed that after watching their favorite show, your child is more irritable, less patient, and unable to play quietly by themselves? Here is a powerful and alarming fact from modern neuroscience. The hyper-stimulating, rapidly edited content that dominates children's entertainment today is not just a passing amusement. It is actively training your child's brain, and it may be training it for a future of distraction, anxiety, and emotional instability. Subscribe to English Vibe Daily right now, because who knows, maybe later we won't get a chance to meet again. Hello, and a very warm welcome back to English Vibe Daily. I'm Adam. If you are a parent, a caregiver, or anyone who works with children, I believe this video can fundamentally transform your perspective on the real, lasting impact of children's entertainment. I want you to stay with me on this journey, because what we are going to explore together today is absolutely crucial for the future neurological and emotional development of the children you love and appreciate the most. Today, we will talk about something that can be profoundly and often invisibly affecting your child's development, right under your own roof, without you even noticing it. In this special episode, I will speak slowly and clearly. I invite you to listen, to repeat the key ideas, and to shadow along with me, not just to practice English, but to allow this critical information to truly sink in. Are you ready to begin this essential exploration together? Take a deep, calming breath, and let's start. The alarming trend, a psychiatrist's perspective. During my years of experience as a psychiatrist, I have observed a deeply alarming trend in my consultation room. More and more parents are bringing their children to me with the same set of painful problems. Children are becoming increasingly irritable, emotionally unstable, and unable to modulate or control their reactions to simple, everyday frustrations. And you know what so many of these seemingly different cases have in common? The type of digital media they are consuming on a daily basis. Today, we will analyze with a compassionate and scientific eye how certain animated programs, which on the surface seem completely harmless and fun, may be silently restructuring the very architecture of our children's brains in ways we could have never imagined just a generation ago. To make this real for you, I am going to tell you 3 true anonymized stories from my own clinical practice that I believe will force you to consider in depth what you allow your children to see. And at the end, I will give you simple, practical, and powerful strategies that you can start using today to safeguard your child's neurological and emotional well-being. Let's start by understanding what is actually happening inside a child's brain when they consume this kind of fast-paced, hyperstimulating content. A child's nervous system is a delicate masterpiece that is in the full dynamic process of maturing. The parts of their brain related to attention, to impulse control, and to the ability to focus are especially vulnerable during these formative years. I remember perfectly the case of Clara, a bright and beautiful 5-year-old girl who came to my consultation with what her exhausted parents described as indomitable behavior. Clara could not sit still for more than 5 minutes. She would have sudden, inexplicable attacks of aggressiveness, and she suffered from constant, terrifying night terrors that left the whole family sleep-deprived and on edge. When we delved deep into her daily routines, we discovered something shocking. Clara was spending more than 4 hours every single day watching animated content that was characterized by its vertiginous, almost frantic editing, its aggressive shouting tones, and its overwhelming, non-stop auditory stimuli. The fundamental problem with these kinds of hyperstimulating programs is that they generate what neuroscientists call stimulus dependency. The child's brain gets so used to this high level of excitement that it begins to require increasingly high thresholds of stimulation just to experience a normal sense of pleasure. This means that normal, healthy, everyday childhood activities, like reading a book, playing quietly with blocks, or having a calm conversation with a parent, start to feel incredibly tedious and boring to them. Why? Because these calm activities do not provide the massive, artificial injection of the chemical dopamine to which their young brain has become tragically accustomed. You've now seen a glimpse into the neurological impact through Clara's story. If this information is already feeling important to you, please take a moment to click the like button on this video and join our channel. Sharing this information is essential to help other parents protect the development of their children, and your support helps me reach more families who need to hear this. Now let's explore an even deeper, and in my opinion, more concerning aspect of this problem: the emotional script, learning how to feel and relate. Now I want to focus on something that worries me deeply as a mental health specialist. We are going to explore how certain types of animated content are actively instilling unhealthy emotional patterns in our children, which then manifest in their real-life interactions and behaviors. Let's take the real situation of Mateo, a wonderful 7-year-old boy whose parents brought him to me because he had developed what they described as impossible rages that were impossible to contain. Through our conversations, we discovered that Mateo's favorite television program continuously featured characters who solved all of their problems and disputes through scolding, emotional blackmail, and a kind of comic, consequence-free aggressiveness. The implicit, powerful message that Mateo's young, absorbent brain had assimilated was simple and dangerous. When you don't get what you want, the most effective reaction is to raise your emotional intensity, to shout, to cry, to get angry, until the people around you finally give up and give you what you want. This brings us to a cardinal, unbreakable idea in child development. Children learn far more by imitation than they do by direct instruction. We can tell our children 100 times to be kind and to share, but if the animated character they admire on screen solves their problems by screaming, by twisting the truth, or by being cruel to others, then they are learning, on a very deep level, that these are valid and effective tactics for navigating the world. A child's brain does not and cannot discriminate between fiction and reality in the same way that an adult brain does. For them, what they observe constantly and repeatedly on a screen becomes a mental blueprint, a subconscious script for how the world works and how they are supposed to act within it. These problematic programs usually display several harmful models over and over again. First, the normalization of cruelty as a form of humor. This teaches children that hurting others, physically or emotionally, can be funny and even socially acceptable. Second, the presentation of extreme, exaggerated emotions as the only legitimate way to express oneself. Children who are constantly exposed to these models learn, subconsciously, that calm expression and quiet communication are boring or worse, ineffective. And third, the complete lack of any genuine, meaningful consequences for destructive actions, which completely cancels out the opportunity for moral learning. I clearly remember the case of another young girl named Elena. Elena, at 7 years old, had begun to emotionally manipulate her loving parents using the exact tactics that she had seen her favorite cartoon character use in a popular animated series. When she didn't get what she wanted, she would immediately assume the dramatic role of a victim, complete with theatrical tears and long, sad monologues about the terrible injustice of her life. Her parents, who loved her dearly and couldn't bear to see her so unhappy, were inadvertently reinforcing this manipulative dynamic by giving in to these powerful emotional demonstrations every single time. The long-term impact of this kind of emotional coding is profound. We are witnessing the rise of a generation of children who are reaching adolescence without the basic resources for healthy emotional management, who have deeply unrealistic expectations about how relationships are supposed to function, and who have a heartbreakingly low tolerance for everyday frustration. The shattered mind, the war on sustained concentration, we. Now come to what I consider one of the most insidious and harmful effects that I am documenting in my clinical practice: the systematic eradication of the capacity for sustained concentration in children. And I want to be extremely clear at this point because this is not an exaggeration. We are talking about a palpable, measurable, and quantifiable neurological modification. The human brain, for hundreds of thousands of years, evolved to alternate between periods of prolonged, deep focus and periods of rest and mind wandering. However, our modern digital media has established a pattern of incessant, non-stop stimulation that is literally remodeling the neural architecture of our children's minds. Let me share the case of Nicholas, a bright 9-year-old boy who was brought to my consultation because his teachers were becoming increasingly alarmed by his complete inability to stay attentive for more than 2 minutes in any given activity. His young brain had been, quite literally, trained by his favorite shows to anticipate a complete change of stimulus every few moments. The programs he watched for hours every day would change the scene, the focus, the character, or the event every 2 to 3 seconds. As a result, his brain had learned a powerful and devastating lesson. Holding your attention on one single thing for longer than a few seconds is unusual and unnecessary. This leads us to the fundamental concept of neuroplasticity. The infant brain is exceptionally malleable and plastic, which means that it physically shapes itself according to the patterns of stimulation it receives most frequently. If a child is constantly exposed to material that requires only a shallow, frivolous, and rapidly shifting form of attention, then their brain will build and optimize neural networks that are perfectly suited for that kind of superficial processing. The terrible drawback is that these same neural networks are the exact opposite of what is required for deep academic learning, for genuine, out-of-the-box creativity, for solving complex problems, and for cultivating meaningful, long-term relationships. But here is something that I believe is even more serious: the cancellation of the capacity for creative boredom. We have come to see boredom as an enemy to be avoided at all costs. But healthy boredom is not the rival of child development. It is one of its most essential catalysts. When a child is allowed to experience a moment of healthy doing nothing, their brain accesses what we call the default mode network. This is a neurological state that is absolutely essential for creativity, for introspection, and for the consolidation of knowledge. Children who are constantly overstimulated by problematic content completely lose access to this vital neurological state. Instead of boredom driving them to create, to imagine, to invent, or to reflect, it now causes them deep anxiety and a compulsive, desperate need to seek more and more external excitement to fill the void. This, my friends, is devastating. The path to healing, conscious choices for a calmer mind after presenting this vision, which I know can seem overwhelming and perhaps even frightening. I want to offer you a profound sense of optimism and a set of concrete, actionable strategies. The same principle of neuroplasticity that allows these damages to occur also means that, with the right interventions, they can absolutely be reversed. I have personally witnessed extraordinary and beautiful transformations in children whose parents decided to apply conscious, informed, and loving modifications to their environment. First, let's talk about what to look for in constructive and healthy digital content for children. The programs that actively promote healthy neurological development all share specific, identifiable characteristics. They have a calm rhythm, with sufficient time for a child to process what is happening in each scene. They feature fluid, gentle transitions between sequences, without jarring cuts or loud, surprising sounds. The characters model a cooperative resolution of conflicts, and they incorporate moments of stillness or soft music that allow the child's brain to rest and integrate information. But let's be realistic about this process of change. If your child is already accustomed to hyperstimulating content, changing everything overnight can generate immense resistance and what can even look like symptoms of withdrawal. Therefore, I have developed a gentle, staggered protocol that has been successfully implemented with hundreds of families. The first stage involves gradual decrease and replacement. Instead of completely eliminating the problematic content from one day to the next, you slowly reduce the exposure time while simultaneously incorporating more beneficial alternatives. We start with short digital disconnection sessions of only 15 to 20 minutes a day, where the child participates in activities that are completely screen-free. During these vital detoxification sessions, it is crucial to offer activities that feed the same areas of the brain that have been overstimulated, but in a healthy way. This can include games that require building things step by step, age-appropriate puzzles, artistic activities that focus on the process rather than the final result, and, above all else, unstructured time spent outdoors. Nature exerts a unique and powerful restorative effect on a child's overstimulated nervous system. It is the perfect antidote. A crucial component in this entire process is the active, loving involvement of you, the parent. A particularly effective tactic is what I call the co-design of media norms. Instead of just imposing rules from above, you include your children in simple, age-appropriate conversations about how different types of media affect their bodies and their minds. You can say things like, "Have you noticed how after we watch that fast, loud show, it feels hard to calm our bodies down?" Children are surprisingly receptive when they are helped to understand the loving reason behind the limits. The main, hopeful message I want you to take with you today is that you, as a parent, have a far greater influence than you can possibly imagine to positively shape the neurological and emotional development of your children. Every single conscious decision you make about what content you authorize, every moment of your full, undivided presence that you share with them, every firm but loving limit you establish is literally sculpting the very architecture of their developing brains. My intention here is not to generate guilt about the past, but to empower you with knowledge for the future. And please remember, the changes you make do not have to be drastic or dramatic to be incredibly effective. Sometimes the most profound and lasting transformations are born from small, frequent, and consistent adjustments, made with a clear purpose and always with unconditional love. And now I want to listen to you. I invite you to share your story in the comments. Your testimony may be exactly what another parent needs to hear today to feel less alone and to find the motivation to begin making these important changes. Thank you for joining me in this essential reflection.